Episode 5 of the Mighty Ducks Game Changers has released on Disney+. This episode is labeled Cherry Picker, and honestly some of my worst fears about this show are starting to come true. I'm really disappointed in the way that this show has progressed. But let's get into the recap and I'll go over in detail about the things that are bothering me the most. We start out at a Don't Bother's practice. They're going to go over a play that they're going to use later on in this episode, unfortunately. We cut to Alex and Bombay. Bombay is basically asking Alex out to a hockey game. They're forming a relationship and he's trying to muster up the courage to be able to take her out on a date. He's disguising it as a field trip for the team though. This is a callback to when Bombay took the first Mighty Ducks team to a Stars game. Evan's dad shows up and Evan is really excited to see him. Alex, on the other hand, not so much. Evan's dad has a band and he has a gig tonight at a bar. He wants Evan to be able to come and watch him play. Alex doesn't really want to do this because it's a school night and she doesn't want him to be up late. Bombay says that he will take Evan and make sure he's back home before 9. Alex reluctantly agrees to this. We cut to Lauren and Maya. Lauren is rummaging through her backpack because she cannot find her cape. Maya eventually finds it for her. Maya's trying to figure out why she loves his cape so much. Lauren explains that when she was younger, she had scoliosis and she had to wear a back brace. Because she was so embarrassed by wearing the back brace and everybody was making fun of her, her father gave her that cape so she'd be able to hide it. She said it made her feel like a superhero when she wore it, so it's a bit like a security blanket for her. Maya lets her know that she knows what it's like to be teased. When she first moved here, everybody made fun of her because she had a New York accent. She spent a long time trying to get rid of that accent. These two have a nice bonding moment over this, and then they decide to make a TikTok video, because it's 2021 and apparently that's what kids do. So they make their TikTok video and Maya says she's going to post it. We cut to Bombay getting in his truck with Evan. The passenger side door is broken, so Evan has to get in from the driver's seat. That's something to keep in mind for later in this episode. They go and watch the band play. After his set, Evan's dad joins Bombay and Evan. Bombay and Evan's dad start to form a little bit of a relationship. They both have had to travel the road and stay at some pretty nasty hotels. So they have some common ground here. You can kind of see a friendship starting to bond between these two. Chicken wings are brought to the table, and Bombay and Evan's dad start to have an eating competition. I think they get up to 42 wings apiece when Evan's mom calls. It's apparently around midnight at this point. They were having so much fun that they had no idea that time was flying by. And obviously, Evan's mom has every right to be upset here. She's been calling and texting and nobody's been answering. She had no idea where her child was for several hours. So Bombay takes an off-screen tongue lashing from Alex, and then he comes back into the bar and talks to Evan's dad. Evan's dad gives him some advice to how to make up with Alex. We cut to Evan's bedroom. Long story short here, Alex doesn't want Evan to be disappointed when his dad doesn't actually show up to come see his game. Alex talks about how unreliable he's always been. And Evan seems to understand this. He just wants to be able to keep the hope alive that his dad will actually show up and see him play. The next game is against the Hawks, by the way. Apparently the Hawks are a really bad team, although they've at least won one game. So that's more than you could say about the Don't Bothers. It's kind of interesting to hear about how far down the Hawks have fallen. I wonder if it's been that way ever since the Ducks beat them. We cut to some of the Ducks at the school cafeteria watching a TikTok video that Maya made with another one of her friends. Lauren walks up and wants to know if they've seen the one that Lauren and Maya made together. It turns out that Maya never actually made that post. Lauren confronts Maya in the cafeteria about why she didn't make this post. She thinks she's embarrassed of her. Maya tries to explain to her that she didn't want to embarrass her. And so there's a little bit of a falling out here. Lauren thinks that Maya is just trying to save face in front of her popular friends. We cut to Bombay giving Alex a stuffed unicorn. He's trying to smooth everything over with Alex for keeping Evan up so late. This is actually the advice that Evan's dad gave him. Alex has a conversation here with Winnie discussing all of this. This is exactly the kind of behavior that Evan's dad did to Alex, and she doesn't want any kind of relationship with Bombay if that's the way he's going to act as well. Alex takes the stuffed animal to Bombay's office and gives it back to him, and basically blows him off and says she's not going to go to the hockey game with him. At this point, we cut to Maya, who's hanging out with her friends. Lauren is also there hanging out with her friends as well. Maya sees her and she walks over to her. She wants to apologize and kind of make amends here. But Lauren actually doesn't want to be seen with her. And so the cool thing here is that we're actually seeing the reverse of what happened in the cafeteria. Lauren is actually embarrassed to have a friend like Maya in front of her cosplayer friends. So it kind of turns the whole nerdy/popular thing on its head. They're basically both embarrassed being around each other when they're hanging out with their own friends. We cut to Bombay and Evan's dad hanging out in a bar. Again, these two have kind of built up a little bit of a friendship here. Evan's dad gets a text that says he's going to get a big gig in Madison. Unfortunately, he has to go there tonight. Bombay is trying to talk him out of this here. He thinks he needs to go to Evan's hockey game. Evan's dad says he'll make it up to him, but this is a gig of the lifetime kind of situation. Obviously, Evan's dad is kind of a scumbag. He's still chasing his rock and roll dreams. Bombay agrees to give him a ride to the airport so he can make his gig. I was actually okay with this episode up to this point. It was flowing okay, there wasn't a lot of hockey action, which is always a negative, but we were at least learning something about Lauren and Maya. And then we cut to the Hawks Don't Bothers game. That's exactly what I was afraid of, and let's get into it. So Evan's looking around and he doesn't see his dad. This is obviously going to affect the way he plays for some reason. I mean, I guess he's disappointed that his dad's not there, but his dad hasn't been there this whole time, so he should be used to it at this point. He gets agitated and he takes a penalty even before the game begins. We cut to Bombay and Evan's dad driving. Bombay is intentionally missing the airport exit. Bombay talks about his own childhood experience with his dad being there and his dad passing away later. Bombay is basically talking about how important it was for his dad to have been there, and how he missed it after his dad died. But honestly, none of this is getting through to Evan's dad. He is what he is. He wants to be a rock and roll star, and that's really all he cares about. I mean, I'm sure he loves Evan, but Evan is clearly not a priority to him. But because the passenger door is broke, he can't actually leave the vehicle, so Bombay drives him all the way to the hockey game. We cut back to seeing Evan playing really bad. And that's saying something because the Don't Bothers are clearly a really bad team. But after getting down 4-0, Evan's dad and Bombay show up. This apparently is the spark that Evan needed to become a superstar hockey player. Where all this talent is coming from, I have no idea. Evan turns into the greatest Pee-wee hockey player who's ever lived. So the funny thing about hockey is that it's very much a team game. It's really hard just to have one good player and win. It's not like basketball. So even though most of the Don't Bothers are really bad at the game, Evan's capable of scoring 4 goals here and winning the game. This all comes out of nowhere. I mean, yes, they set up that the Hawks are bad, but they've at least won a game, which means that they've beaten a competent team. The Don't Bothers aren't competent because we've never shown them to be competent. Where did all of this come from? Where did all of this talent from Evan come from? Did he just need his dad at one game to spark some sort of elite hockey skill that he somehow possesses? And what about Sophie? She's not even in this episode. You see her a couple of times in the background, but she does absolutely nothing in this game to help. What was the point of her being on the team then? I sort of thought that was going to be the case here, that she was somehow going to carry this bunch of losers into a winning category. But no, it's Evan. And it's so over the top. And again, like I said, it comes from nowhere. We don't see the Don't Bothers progressing in any shape or form. And how does Coob only let in 4 goals? Again, we've never seen him move an inch in net. Did somebody teach him to play goalie off screen? And why aren't we seeing any of this? Do you remember in the first movie when the Ducks got a tie and how hard they worked to get that tie? There was tons of practices and tons of learning how to actually play hockey, and they were just able to squeak out a tie. But you knew that they earned it. The Don't Bothers haven't earned anything. They haven't been coached and half the team still can't skate properly. So Sophie's nowhere to be seen, and Evan is now a superstar player who literally wills his team to victory. Oh, and somewhere in the middle of this, Maya and Lauren make up. There really wasn't much to it. Nick gives a speech and then they just forget about their feud, I guess. This is what allows them to run that double helix that we saw them practicing early on in the episode. Alex finds out that Bombay kidnaps Evan's dad and actually got him to the game. So this puts Bombay and Alex back on good terms again. We cut back to the school cafeteria, and honestly, I really think that this is the first time that we see Sophie in the entire episode, other than shots of her jersey from the back. A nice moment here where Lauren's trying to dress as a popular girl, and where Maya's trying to dress as Lauren, wearing a cape. They're back to being friends again. So oddly enough, the B-plot here worked for me. We saw a couple of character progressions with these two. And honestly, before this episode, I didn't even know what their names were. That's how irrelevant they were to the entire show up to this point. So they make up and all is good. So in the final scene, the Ducks goalie comes up to Evan and wants to tell him something. Apparently the Ducks coach saw how well Evan played in that last game, and he now wants to talk to Evan. So we all know what's going to happen here. Evan's going to get offered a spot to join the Mighty Ducks. Now how this goes, I don't know. I mean, obviously I think he's not going to do it, but I think it's going to cause some drama. But honestly, this is just so silly. Where did this talent come from? It makes no sense. Nobody's coached him up to be this way. He just randomly hulks out in the middle of a hockey game, and now they want him to join the Mighty Ducks again. And why does the Mighty Ducks coach care? So he beat up on the second worst team in the league? That doesn't sound like something that would spark that coach's interest. I don't know, maybe it's a ploy to get Sophie back on the team as well. Maybe he's willing to take Evan on if he can get one of his best players back. But again, I didn't really see Sophie being one of the best players in this episode. She literally didn't contribute a thing to the game. Maybe if we saw her score a goal or two, maybe that would have helped us believe what Evan was doing. He didn't need to hulk out and score all of the goals. He just needed to up his game up slightly and complement Sophie's superior play. I don't know, guys. I just think the show is going about all of this in kind of a really lazy way. This group of kids who didn't even know how to play hockey, who have never had a proper coach, somehow beats a team that we know is well-funded and at least has some players on it. I'm just not buying it. I'm not buying it because we haven't seen the team put in the work. I think we should expect more of this as the show starts to wind down. And I'm going to be fully honest here. This is a major disappointment to me. I didn't have high expectations for the show in general before it started, and now I basically have no expectations for it. But we'll keep drudging through it and we'll get through these episodes to see how it ends. If I had to guess, this show has no chance at a second season, but we'll see. But if you want to go check out my reviews on the first 4 episodes, I highly recommend you go check those out. I hope today's the day that I earned your subscription. Thanks for being a part of my life, and I'll see you next time.